Chosen. If you are hearing these words in the heavy stillness of this on this specific, marked in the tapestry of time, it is because a sacred fracture has opened in the unseen realm, and your specific frequency is vibrating against it tonight. You did not find this recording. That is the illusion of the matrix. This message found you. It was not delivered by an algorithm or code. It was delivered by appointment, passed through a vibrational sieve that only allows resonant souls to slip through, turning this moment into a direct incoming call to your spirit. You must hear me with extreme care right now. If you have awakened, as many of you have, in the hour of God, that thin electric space between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., with a strange ringing or high-pitched frequency in your ears, understand that these are not physical ailments. These are codes loading, a restructuring of your inner architecture that your body is only beginning to register, occurring simultaneously with the suffocating pressure you feel upon your shoulders, the weight of an old life that no longer fits the expanded being you are becoming. Tonight I am here to name what is happening, because the wrong translation of the past several months is about to cost you the entire decade standing in front of you. You are reading the last semester of your life completely wrong, and heaven is grieving over the misinterpretation, not because you have failed, but because the gap between where you are currently standing and what you were undeniably born for is no longer measured in years or distance. It is measured in mere breaths, and something in you is preparing to turn and walk away from it without ever knowing what it truly is. The profound silence you felt in your spirit was not abandonment by the divine. It was an intentional restraint of power. The crushing fatigue you have carried was not a physical decline. It was the biological tax of a massive spiritual transition. And that sudden overwhelming urge to lay it all down this very week, to walk away from the calling and disappear into normalcy, was not wisdom arriving late. It was the oldest spiritual ambush in the world, deployed with surgical precision right before the door swings open. So I ask you now to stop scrolling immediately. Whatever tab is open in another window, close it. Whatever voice in the background is demanding your attention, let it wait. If you are around others, this message is not for them. It is for you and you alone. And if you need earphones to let these words land gently in the center of your being, put them in now, adjust the volume, and I will wait. Now, take one full, deliberate breath with me, in through your nose, slowly, and out through your mouth, even slower. Do it again. And one more time. What you are about to receive will not happen to you through passive consumption. This is not content. This is confrontation. A gentle, mystical confrontation that does not exist to break you down, but to break you open. I promise you this. If you remain with me until the final seal of acceptance at the end of this journey, you will leave this recording with the very thing you have been asking God for since you were a very young child. Not because I am special, but because the alignment of this moment in your life on this and the convergence of this message in your hands is Kairos, an appointed, ripe, and irreversible moment in destiny. I will tell you exactly what will happen. We are not here to manage your expectations, but to honor your exhausted time, because you have already given too many hours to messages that promised the world and delivered dust. First, by the end of this recording, you will understand with total, settled clarity exactly why the last several months have felt the way they have. The nonsense exhaustion, the doubt that arrived without warning, the sudden questioning of things you believed with certainty just a year ago. You will know why they came, and you will know they were not signs of failure. Second, I will give you a specific practice, a named tool, with 4 clear steps you can deploy within 60 seconds of feeling that ancient urge to lay everything down. Third, I will speak a declaration over you, not by my authority, but by an authority much older than me that moves through these words. And if you stay until then, that declaration will mark your spirit in the quiet way that the most important things get marked, providing understanding, a tool, and a ceiling. Now breathe with me again, in and out, and feel your body here, right where you are sitting or standing, because we must move past the surface and into the mechanics of why the universe has engineered this sacred interruption in your life. The architecture of your wilderness is not a design of chaos, but a masterpiece of divine geometry, a structured isolation where the walls were built not to keep you in, but to keep the world out, while the surgery of the soul was being performed. You have spent the last several months viewing the pain, the betrayals, and the sudden financial emptiness as evidence of a spiritual detour. Yet I am here to tell you that every loss was a surgical intervention by the universe itself. The people who walked away from you, the doors that were slammed and locked from the outside, and the resources that seemed to evaporate overnight were not accidents of fate. They were the intentional removal of contaminants. You must understand the watchers, those individuals from your previous cycle who still monitor your life from a distance, peering through the digital glass, waiting for the news of your total collapse so they can feel justified in their own mediocrity. Their exit from your immediate field was a tactical protection, for the universe knew that the frequency you are currently manifesting is so potent that it would have been consumed by those matrix parasites before it could fully stabilize. You were not being rejected by the world, you were being hidden from it. The betrayal you felt was actually the universe severing the umbilical cords to energy vampires who were never meant to breathe the air of the mountain you are about to summit. Had they remained, their doubt would have become a toxin in your blood at the very moment you needed your highest resolve. So they were removed by force, leaving you in a silence that felt like a tomb, but was actually a womb. This brings us to the logic of the vacuum, a principle of spiritual physics that few chosen ones understand until the transition is complete. You have looked at the empty spaces in your bank account, the empty chairs at your table, and the quietness of your phone, and felt as though you were being left behind. But you were actually being hardened in a vacuum. In nature, when a substance is placed in a vacuum, it is forced to hold its own structure without external support. It is refined by the pressure of its own internal reality. This was your hardening. You were being placed in a spiritual reserve, a sanctified holding pattern, so that your light would not be diffused or stolen by the matrix parasites that feed on the unshielded energy of the gifted. You felt lonely because you were being quarantined for your own protection, kept in a state of reserve until your vibrational signature was strong enough to stand in the presence of the new resource without being corrupted by the old ego. You have not been forgotten in the desert. You have been kept in the treasury of the unseen. The wilderness you think you are wandering through is actually the construction site of your new identity, and the reason it feels so empty is that the old structures had to be completely leveled to the ground before the foundation of the fifth dimensional reality could be poured. You were not falling apart, you were being deconstructed so that you could be rebuilt with materials that no longer respond to the gravitational pull of the lower realms. The financial droughts you encountered were not signs of lack, but tests of source recognition. The universe was stripping away your reliance on the middleman of the matrix so that you would learn to draw directly from the infinite reservoir of your own divinity. Every time you reached for an old solution and found it broken, it was a nudge to look higher. You were being trained to operate in a vacuum, where the only thing that matters is the purity of your intent and the stillness of your heart. The watchers who wait for your failure do not realize that the very emptiness they mock is the proof of your upcoming overflow. They see the dry riverbed and think the river is dead, but they do not see the rains that have already begun in the mountains. You have been hardened, tempered like steel in the fire of isolation, so that when the gates are finally torn from their hinges, you will not be overwhelmed by the intensity of the light. You are no longer the soft, easily manipulated soul of the previous year. You have become a vessel of reinforced spirit. This period of being left behind was actually the time of your greatest advancement, a secret acceleration occurring beneath the surface of the stillness. You are the reserve of heaven, the hidden arrow in the quiver of the divine, and the moment of your release is no longer a matter of if, but a matter of the very next breath you take. We must now penetrate the hidden mechanics of the shift, the actual celestial engineering of the transformation that is currently vibrating within your very marrow. You have been conditioned by the Matrix to believe that progress is a linear progression, a slow climb up a ladder fashioned from the heavy timber of effort and sweat. But the shift you are currently navigating is not a climb, it is a quantum leap. It is a sudden, radical relocation of your entire consciousness from one reality frequency to another, a movement that defies the laws of the old world. This is the profound moment of DNA reprogramming, where the very instructions of your existence are being rewritten by the high-frequency light you have allowed to enter through the cracks of your recent deconstruction. Your physical vessel is being systematically upgraded, its nervous system refined to handle the higher voltages of the fifth dimension, a realm where the shadow between thought and manifestation is obliterated, and where your word becomes the law of your environment. This is why you have felt that strange electric buzzing in your limbs, that sensation that your skin is a garment that has become too small for the energy surging beneath it. You are not losing your cognitive grip, you are losing your human limitation. The entry into the fifth dimension is not a destination you travel toward, but a state of being you finally allow. And the shift completes itself the very moment your internal vibrational signature perfectly matches the frequency of the divine resource you have been calling out for in the dark. This is the immutable law of resonance. The universe is incapable of giving you what you want. It can only reflect back to you exactly what you are. For the last several months, the harsh winds of the wilderness have been stripping away every version of you that did not match the weight of the promise. Now, as the ancient gates are being torn from their hinges by the sheer velocity of your arrival, we are witnessing the total erasure of karmic debt. The ledgers of your past mistakes, the heavy accounts of your ancestral burdens, and the self-inflicted wounds of your previous cycles are being consumed by a holy fire. The accounts are closed, the debt is cancelled. You are being granted a total clearing of the spiritual slate, an absolute erasure that allows you to stand before the threshold without the gravity of the old world pulling at your heels. The mechanics of this shift are effortless because they are powered by the arrival of Kairos. It is the image of a mighty river finally entering a dry, cracked riverbed that has been waiting in agonizing silence to feel the rush of the deep water once again. You do not have to labor to pull the water toward you. You only have to remain as the open, hollowed-out channel. The gates of your destiny are not being gently nudged open with a key. They are being blown apart because the pressure of your preparation has become greater than the resistance of your obstacles. Every single delay you endured, every no that broke your heart, and every silence that made you scream was actually a pressure cooker environment designed to build the internal power necessary to shatter the barriers of this new reality. You are transitioning from the exhaustion of the seeker to the magnetism of the found. The resources, the strategic connections, and the sudden revelations are now being pulled toward the holy vacuum you created during your season of total emptiness. This is the spiritual physics of your new life, the complete recalibration of your energy field, so that you no longer chase the light, but exist as the gravitational center, the sun around which your new world must orbit. The transition is not a future event, It is happening in the microscopic space between your indrawn breath and your release. You are stepping into the dimension of the already done, where the era of the grind ends and the era of the flow begins. The only requirement for this quantum leap is that you finally drop the heavy rusted tools of the third dimension. You cannot build a fifth dimensional life with the bricks of fear and the mortar of trying. Let the old effort fall away like dead leaves in a storm, for the river has finally found its bed and the gates are gone forever. Now that the gates have been torn from their hinges and the river is flooding the dry bed of your life, I must hand you the most difficult and vital instruction of all, the law of silence. You are currently carrying a force so new, a resource so volatile and sacred, that to speak of it to the uninitiated is to leak the very pressure required for its final, undeniable manifestation. There is a reason the seed must remain beneath the heavy, dark earth before the sprout can withstand the sun. And your new reality is in that precise, fragile state of early germination, where its roots are finding purchase in the fifth dimensional soil. You must resist the ancient, desperate urge to run back to the people of your old cycle, the ones who watched you struggle and weep in the desert, to explain your transformation, or to seek their validation for the light they are not yet equipped to see. Hear me with your spirit. Do not speak of this new force. Do not broadcast the blueprints of the shift, and do not attempt to convince the skeptics that you have finally arrived, for their doubt is a frequency that acts as a leaden weight on the wings of your new consciousness. This is a time of holy secrecy, a period of spiritual fasting, where your words are reserved only for the divine, and for those rare souls who vibrate at your same frequency. Your old environment, the very people, habits, and places that defined your era of lack and wandering, will instinctively sense the change in your vibrational signature. They will feel the heat of the fire you are carrying, even if they cannot see the flames. Because they cannot rise to meet you in this new altitude, they will attempt to probe your energy field, asking innocent questions or bringing up past failures, all in a subconscious attempt to find a hook, a familiar insecurity, or a grievance to drag you back into the familiar density of the third dimensional matrix. These are the energy vampires of the old reality, and they are not always villains in the traditional sense. Often they wear the faces of people you love, individuals who are terrified of the version of you they can no longer control, predict, or manipulate. They will probe for a crack in your resolve, hoping to see if the old you is still available to play the old game of drama and depletion. Tonight, I release you from the exhausting burden of explanation and the futile task of self-defense. Your verdict has already been handed down by the councils of light, and it is this: your results will be your only answer. You no longer need words to justify your path, your sudden boundaries, or your radical worthiness, for the physical manifestation that is currently materializing in your world will soon speak with a roar that silence cannot contain. If you attempt to explain the miracle before it is fully solidified in matter, you inadvertently give the doubters permission to breathe their cold, damp breath upon your burgeoning fire. But if you hold your peace and remain within the sacred circle of protection, the fire will become an unquenchable inferno. This is the true mastery of the chosen, to walk through the old world with a shimmering secret in your chest, to look into the eyes of the watchers with a calm, steady gaze that requires nothing from them, and to let the sudden, unexplained expansion of your life be the only testimony you ever offer. You are moving in a silent, frictionless power now, a velocity of spirit that does not require the heat of debate or the noise of the crowd. Every time you withhold your sacred story from someone who only wants to find its flaws or tear at its beauty, you are banking that psychic energy for the final, effortless push through the threshold. You are building a reservoir of power in the quiet. Stay silent, stay hidden in plain sight, and let the sheer, undeniable weight of your new reality do the heavy lifting of your reputation, because you have entered the sovereign season where your presence is a command and your success is a foregone conclusion that requires no footnotes, no apologies, and no witnesses from the past to authorize its arrival. Chosen, the final decree has been written in the celestial scrolls and is now being spoken into the very air you breathe. Your orphanhood is over. For too long you have lived as a spiritual orphan, feeling the cold wind of a world that never quite recognized your name or your true nature, wandering through social circles and family structures that felt like borrowed clothes that never quite fit. You looked for a home in people who did not speak your language, and you sought validation in systems designed to keep you small. But tonight, that era of isolation is officially and eternally finished. You are no longer a wanderer, hoping for a seat at a table that was never meant for you. You are the sovereign architect of a new kingdom, and you are under absolute, impenetrable protection. The unseen legions that have been watching your every step in the wilderness, observing your silent tears and your refusal to break during the deconstruction, are now stepping forward to form a permanent perimeter of light around your life. No weapon formed in the lower densities, no word spoken by the watchers of your past, and no frequency of lack can penetrate the seal that has been placed upon your brow this night. You have been tested in the fires of the vacuum, you have been refined in the silence of the third-dimensional tomb, and you have been found worthy of the massive resource that is now flooding into your reality. This is not a temporary blessing or a passing moment of luck. This is the inheritance of the chosen soul, the delayed dividend of 1,000 lifetimes of faithful endurance and secret suffering. You have walked through the fire and you do not smell of smoke. You have survived the liquefaction of the cocoon, and now you stand as a living monument to the power of the divine shift. To anchor this frequency into the material realm, to ground this high vibrational energy into the very earth beneath your feet and the screen in your hand, you must perform one final act of sovereign will. This is not for the benefit of any system, but for the grounding of your own internal frequency into the density of matter. In the space below, in the comments of this sacred gathering, I want you to type the words that declare your transition from the seeker to the master. I am the path, and the way is open. By typing these words, you are signaling to the fabric of reality that you have accepted the shift, that you have stopped the search, and that you are now the gravitational center of your own existence. You are marking the specific moment where the quantum leap becomes a physical fact, sealing the contract of your fifth-dimensional identity. As you move forward into the coming days of this week, notice with a quiet, observant heart how the world begins to rearrange itself to accommodate your new presence. Notice the strange, effortless ease that begins to replace the years of the grind, the diamond-like clarity that replaces the fog of the wilderness, and the sudden, profound knowing that everything you once feared has lost its power over you. You have been looking for the door in the dark, but the ultimate secret of this transition is that you are the door. You have been searching for the way, begging for a map and a guide, but tonight you realize the silent truth that has been waiting for you to become still enough to hear it. Your orphanhood is over. You are under protection. You no longer search for the path. You are the path.